Welcome to In This Body, the online event to support parents and caregivers with staying regulated, embodied, and connected, even when things get intense. And today I'm really excited because I have a very special guest, Jay Cohen. Jay grew up in a rough neighborhood outside Boston. At 16, he became a heroin addict in hopes of numbing his intense sensitivity. 5 years later, he joined the Marine Corps, still doing anything to avoid actually facing the pain. After that, he opened a successful brick and mortar business to prove to himself and to the world he was worthy. Eventually, his soul came calling, and it was time to face the music. He went through an intense transformative process, emerging on the other side an initiated man. Jay is now focused on developing deep relationships and serving where and how he is able. Thank you so much for being here, Jay. I'm really honored to have you here speaking here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Nadine. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So tell us more. Like I can just tell from the bio that you've had so many things going on in life. So tell us more about like who you are, your story, and what you do.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a journey in my life. I was born into a household that was both an addict mother and father, and so there was a lack of nurturing, and a lack of support and a lack of stability, all the way through. And that, of course, reverberated its way through the rest of my life. And at a very young age, even though I saw the harm that my parents' behavior caused in my life and swore that I would never become like them, the universe has an interesting way of humbling us. And at 12 or 13 years old, at the time I didn't realize this, but I just didn't know how to cope. I didn't know, I didn't have the tools, I didn't have guidance, I was hanging around other kids that were in similar situations. And so wound up finding my way into some trouble. Luckily, I was also an athlete along with that, and that has been a huge part of my life is health and fitness. And that was really a lifesaver. I think that was the thing that has kept me here because unfortunately, a lot of my friends are not still here. Like they lost their battle. And that's a part of what keeps me going too, to be almost a proxy for them as someone that still has an opportunity to serve and to change and to learn and to grow. Um, yeah, so at 16, like the bio said, found heroin. At 21, I locked myself in a room and went through detox and joined the Marine Corps, which was my way of kind of running away and getting out of Boston and getting out of that environment. I had absolutely zero ability to really dig in and deal with what was actually happening at that point. I still had not entered the world of therapy. I was really just kind of blindly moving my way through the world. And the Marine Corps was life-changing for me. It really gave me a lot of discipline, and I'm a man with a lot of energy, and it kind of helped me to focus that energy and into a direction and give me purpose in a way that felt really productive. And I swore I was going to do 20 years in the Marine Corps, maybe more, and retire. And then I had my daughter. And so I had my daughter. I was 25 years old. I was 3 years into my service in the Marine Corps. And at the time, the United States was in the tail end of Iraq and the beginning of Afghanistan. So the operational tempo was pretty high. Deployments were happening pretty regularly. And so I was away from her for 7 months at a time. And I would come back to a completely different kid. And my heart couldn't do it. And so I decided after my initial 5 years in the military to get out and went back to school and actually got a degree in finance of all things because At the time, it was still very much let me prove my worth to the world. Let me prove that I'm worthy. And my way of doing that was, well, if I can get a finance degree, I can make a lot of money and I can show people that I'm successful, at least on the outside. Interestingly, I didn't end up going into that world. I went into small business because, like I said, athletics and fitness was a huge part of my life. I got involved in that world in a local gym that was really growing in the CrossFit space, actually, and wound up kind of seeing potential to open another location that was my own and kind of entered the entrepreneurial world. And that's the brick and mortar business that happened, where at that point, I had done a bunch of therapy and I had gone through, talk therapy, somatic therapy, EMDR, internal family systems and parts work. I mean, you name it, I had done it at that point. So the gym that I built was really equal parts kind of physical, nutrition, some mental stuff in there, mindfulness practices, all the way back in, this was 2018. I was teaching people breath work and doing sauna and cold plunge and yoga practice and all sorts of different things to bring people into a more unified way of being. Then COVID came. And in a brick and mortar gym business, that was an incredibly difficult time to navigate. I'll save the details, but there was also a lot of investment that I had just put out prior to COVID coming. And so in 2023, after building that business from $5,000 a month to $85,000 a month over the course of a few years, but after all the overhead I had taken on and what happened with COVID in 2023, it was just a struggle. And at that point, the soul had come, and it was clear to me that what I thought was my life's work was somewhat misaligned, and I needed to be putting the deeper stuff first instead of meeting people on the surface and then kind of sneaking in the back door with the soul work. It felt like the soul work and the deep work needed to lead, and then some of these other things were more practices and ways to help be more focused and be more devoted and have a clearer channel, et cetera. So shut down that business in 2023. And I took at the end of 2023, and then I took a year or two to really go deep within myself. I call it my kind of cave years. And I really went within and pulled myself out of the world. And this is where I found a system called the Gene Keys, for those of you that are familiar. And I really went deep on the Gene Keys. After initially finding it, actually, I investigated it and just the complexity of it. And I was like, this is not for me. And then like a year after that, it made its way back into my life. And for whatever reason, I was more open to it that second time around. I started, I'm a teacher at heart, like a coach. That carries over, I guess, from the Marine Corps and leading there, and then being in the fitness space and coaching. And I had a team of 20 people that worked with me for me there. And my membership was 350 people, and they kind of saw me as this kind of tribal leader, if you will. And so I knew that by teaching, I could get those things to sink into me a little bit more. So I started a YouTube channel on a whim, started talking about the Gene Keys there. And to my great surprise, found some resonance with the market, and people started to reach out to me and ask me to do things with them. And I went like 6 months because I was in this cave phase of like, no, I'm not doing anything right now, and telling people that I wasn't interested in the work. After a certain point, a mentor that I was working with was like, "What are you doing? Get it together. Just like people want to do this with you. You clearly understand and can serve, and you say that's what you want to do. So step into service." So that's what I've been up to for the past couple years at this point. And then recently, maybe 6 months or so ago, I felt this another transition moving through me, and noticing certain trends in the people that I was working with and the people that were watching and engaging with me, that felt like I was doing almost putting more into the world that I felt was distracting people or taking people away from the real work. People have this tendency to get lost in a system almost and get ungrounded and go off to this place far away, which is easy to do. Certainly, I had my phase of doing it. And so now I'm in another transition as I move through to I guess re-engage with the world in a more grounded and real and practical way and still kind of seeking my way through what that looks like.
Yes, yes. And uh, there's so much role modeling here because the way that you've engaged with whatever came your way, and then your willingness to just, okay, shift and not like hold on to what to the old and just, okay, now it's time to move. That's like a very inspiring thing for others to see, because it's very difficult. It's very difficult to let go of the past. Yeah.
It is and scary, to have now a couple of times things that have done quote unquote well, in the outer world and have given me this ability to live a lifestyle that has been great to live and the freedom to do what I want when I want to do it and to be willing when I just feel internally something is off, to step into that void space and to know that it doesn't need to be that scary in there. To know that I was just reflecting on this that the void is really the womb. It's this fertile ground that you're just as likely to get something beautiful as amazing as you are to get something scary. And yeah, I've received that feedback a few times where, clients in the gym are like, dude, I feel like every year you're a different person and you speak about different things. And even if you look on my YouTube channel, like I even look different over the course of the few years that I've been on. I got this long hair is a new thing for me. I've never had it before. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. I want to go to back to something you said at the beginning, where you said that your uh, interest in fitness and staying healthy and athletics was the thing that like was the lifesaver for you.
Mhm.
Can you speak more into that and like the importance of the connection to the body, to the physical body?
For sure. Yeah. So as far as the lifesaver aspect goes, it was like one of the only sources of structure in my life. And that structure was the only thing that kept me from constantly, I mean, at the time, creating havoc everywhere in the world. Like the people that I were hanging out with were not up to great things, but I knew that I had to go to practice and I knew that I had a team of people depending on me. And I knew that I had this sport that I loved, like it was a part of who I was and I wanted to get better at it. It was something that I could direct this energy towards that was like one of the only constructive ways that I had in my life to do that. And then, yeah, the importance of the physical body. I cannot overstate this. I believe that intuition speaks to us through our bodies, and that much of the information, maybe not for everyone, but certainly for me, much of the information that I get and the direction that I get and how I know that this isn't right anymore and that I should be stepping in this other direction or doing this other thing is that I get these little whispers. And whenever I am not eating clean and therefore my body is inflamed, it's really hard to notice those whispers. Whenever I am drinking alcohol or taking any substance whatsoever, like those things get muted in a really big way. And to get more specific, we're learning a lot about fascia right now. There's a lot of research coming out about fascia, and it has been so unclear to us the importance of that tissue within our body. And for those of you that don't know, it's a connective tissue that runs. We used to think it was kind of like just like a sandwich, like it was in between our skin and our muscle and it kind of held our organs together. But what we're learning now is that it really it goes into the organs themselves and it sends messages and signals all throughout the body. And it is liquid almost in its ability to morph and change shape. And it holds, like if you've ever heard the term the body keeps the score, it holds, it's the thing that loses hydration and begins to put our bodies into these postures that cause recurring pain and chronic issues. And it's the reason that if you see somebody scared, that has been walking through the world in a way that was really difficult for them, and they had something that they felt they needed to protect themselves from, that classic kind of dog tucking its tail posture with the head forward and the hips rounded underneath, and the fascia begins to hold that position. And I believe that, one of the tenets of Hermetic philosophy is as above, so below, or as within, so without. And I think this connective tissue is our body's way, one of them at least, in connecting to the world that is around us and being able to pick up on and exchange signals. And and so the importance of just being in the body and being grounded and being able to know when you aren't at your baseline. Like that's the other thing, is a lot of people don't even know how stressed or anxious they are because they don't know what home base feels like. And so if you aren't ultimately familiar with your body when something is trying to send you a signal or is pulling you in a certain direction, you can't feel it because you don't know what you normally quote unquote feel like.
Yeah. And how can someone, okay, dive deeper into this with like taking care of the fascia and like knowing, okay, what is normal?
Yeah. Yeah. So on a very practical level, I'm going to recommend two areas that people can investigate that I have zero affiliation with, but have been very helpful for me. The first is what's called the melt method. So the melt method, I wish I had my roller up here, but I'm sure many people have seen a foam roller or heard the term self-myofascial release. So the melt method has a special foam roller that's about an inch smaller in diameter than a normal foam roller. And it is also soft, like it's very squishy. And when you're working with the fascial tissue, it will clamp down if there's too much pressure. So a lot of times a hard foam roller actually has the opposite effect. It's okay for our muscle tissue and loosening knots in the muscle tissue, but if we're working with the fascia, if there's too much pressure too quickly, it has the opposite effect. So the softness allows the fascia to kind of relax. And so there are certain protocols that I'm sure you can find on YouTube and exercises where you basically are just rolling this foam roller over various parts of your body. And a lot of it has to do with finding areas of tension within the tissue and then basically just resting, melting, hence melt method, over the top of it and giving that fascia a chance to release. And what happens then is, if you think of kind of like a sponge, is all the fluid gets pushed out of the fascia. And then when you come off of the roller, it's able, like a sponge, it absorbs, it reabsorbs more liquid, more hydration than there was before. And so gradually we can rehydrate that fascial tissue. And it is incredible for reducing chronic pain, reconnecting to these intuitive signals that I was talking about. So that's one way. Another way where you don't need any equipment whatsoever is the brand is called Human Garage. And these guys offer fascial exercises that you can do, no equipment required, very simple. So, like for example, one, you take your arm, cross it over your shoulder, your other arm underneath, take a breath, and you just twist your body one way and you twist your head the other way and you just take 6 breaths in that position. And again, same idea. You're kind of wringing out the fascial tissue. And then as you come back, that tissue is able to rehydrate itself. So on a practical level, those are ways that we can kind of work with that tissue. And of course, it goes a lot of the research that's coming out now, which I encourage you guys to check out, is it's pretty wild what this tissue is doing on a microscopic level. Its fluid nature and its ability to shift and change and adapt with us as we grow.
Yeah, yeah. And they sound easy exercises. Like it's especially if someone is very busy, leading a very busy life, like parents do. Uh, yeah, yeah. Um, there's I want to stress the point that sometimes we think that our bodies are just our limitations and oh, it's something that is weighing us down. Oh, and I wish I didn't have this body. And but as you were telling your story, when you said like it was the structure, you had that structure to keep you going. I think this is where the body can become that structure. Uh, like if you can speak just a little bit more around how we can shift from seeing it as a limitation to a structure that can actually help us.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think if you see it as a limitation, it will be a limitation. I think that's probably the most important thing that people that are suffering from chronic conditions, and I was one of them big time, and am just getting to the other side. I had debilitating lower back pain to the point where I couldn't function. I mean, it would take me an hour in the morning before I could get out of bed. So I've been there, if that is anyone that is there. But the moment that you give up and say that this is me and this is who I'm going to be for the rest of my life, I think is when that becomes a reality. So I think understanding that everything, kind of like we talked about my story and my ability to shift and change and morph, that is also true on the physical plane. Like your body is incredibly adaptive and is able to change if you are willing to listen to it. And I think that is really the most important thing is if you are dealing with chronic issues or chronic conditions, I believe that it is reflected in the body in such a way that it gives you a clue. Meaning, the reason that my spine is the thing that really was bothering me is because I was trying to hold up the weight of the world on my shoulders. I felt like everything was on me. And so that pressure over time literally caused a back issue for me. Other people, for example, aren't willing or able or have the tools to look at things from their past and they get stuck in this place of like, this trauma is who I am, and it becomes an identity. And in other words, they're not digesting the things that happened from their past and turning it into something helpful, something that they can be there of service for their kids, for their family, for the people that are around them. And therefore, they have digestive issues, right? So there are these real ways that our body gives us clues. And if we're willing to actually listen, and willing to have an open mind and willing to do the hard thing. Like it's a lot easier. And look, I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on the internet. Make sure you, you get medical advice and listen. But it's a lot easier to go and get a pill to solve these problems than it is to actually change the circumstances that created them in the first place. And so we can use our bodies as this tool to understand what we need to change in our life, and we can use it as our anchor and as our pillar. I think a lot of people in that are more spiritually minded have this tendency to over identify with the flow, you know, over identify with it's like this nebulous fuzzy there's some distance between reality and the way that the world works now and what they want the world to be. And I get it. I want the world to be that also. But we're here now and we are responsible for building the bridge between those two ways of being. And our bodies are what provide that structure for us. Our bodies are the thing that ground us down to this planet, which I'll add is beautiful and has so much to offer. And we don't have relationship with our kids in the way that we do on this planet anywhere else. Like when we go back to the place, at least as far as I see it, when we go back to the place that's not here, we all mush together again. Like we maintain some of our individuality, I think, sure, but it's different. Like here is the place where we really can feel what it means to love in a way that is not quite this unified love, if you will. It's this ability to have duality, which a lot of times gets a bad rap, and people try and overcome that thing. And there is a time and a place for that. And I am all for understanding that you are me and I am you. And I agree wholeheartedly. And to ignore the human experience and the beauty that we have here, I think I think that causes a lot of harm. And it's a part of the reason that I kind of stepped back from the gene keys a little bit. That was a pattern that I was seeing on a regular basis.
Yeah. It's this is an invite for like more appreciation for those simple things that make us human. Uh, I'm thinking like hugs with your kids and like these small pleasures uh, that sort of juice up our human experience. Yeah, yeah.
Even small chores. Like, have
Mm,
you ever thought about like what it feels like to have your hands under running water to do dishes? And just like that experience is something that someone who doesn't have hands, think about what they would feel like if they could do that. Like what an amazing gift that is. And it's easy to forget. And I'll be my first to raise my hand that I forget sometimes. But it when reframed in that way, it takes the quote unquote menial tasks and it gives them just this mountain of importance. And it helps us to really see and have this opportunity to regulate ourselves in a way that we can be there for our family and for our kids. Because I really believe it's not about what we say. I guess that's a component of it, but children, especially younger children, it's your resonance, it's your frequency, it's the way that you move through the world that they are like that's what they're taking in, not what you're telling them. And so if you forget that and you're all tight and like, oh, I gotta go do the dishes before I put my kid to bed, they're feeling that.
mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Anything else to wrap this up?
No, I don't think so. Thank you again for having me. It's nice to be able to have a space to talk about these things. I think it's
Mm,
important work that you're doing, and I'm grateful that you're doing it.
thank you, Jay. Uh, would you like to share how, if someone is interested to dive deeper with you, how they can do that?
Sure, yeah. So, somewhere around here, there'll be a link to my Calendly that you can hop on and we can have a chat. As I said, I am very much in a place where I'm interested in developing deep relationships with deep people. And if what I have talked about has been interesting to you and you feel like there's something that could be discussed, I'm open to a conversation that explores that together. So take a look for that link if that's you, and we'll take it from there.
Yes. Thank you, Jay. Um, and I'm always ending these interviews with just one small thing to leave our listeners with, an
Yeah.
uplifting note.
I would say to just remember that there's more beauty in this world than anything else. And in the time that is right now with social media and the news that is around the world, I think that that is incredibly easy to forget. And if you do forget, go to your kids, take them outside, and just look at what we have here.
Mhm. Yeah. Well said. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.